Hey, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this cool texture transition effect animation in Blender 4.2 on a MacBook Pro M1 chip and 16 RAM. So in this video, I'm going to use my all-time soda can. But you can use your own model to this animation, of course. You can now download my 3D soda can model for free. Link in the description. So first start with set up the blend file.
So before I start this tutorial, I will say this video is inspired by George Kayazi. I will link his channel in the description.
So let's get rid of the default stuff. So press A to select all, then press X to delete it. So if you are using my free 3D model soda can, I will show you how to download my free 3D model. So click on the link down below and then type down 0 as the price and then download that. And make the same process and then download the Blender texture for our next step. So now I will show you how to import the model to the blend file. Go to the file and click on Append. Then find your downloaded file and click on that. Click on the object. And in this video, we are going to use the middle soda can. So select the soda can middle and click on Append. Then press Option+G to center it to the 3D cursor. Then press S+0.65 to scale it down. Then press Ctrl+A to apply the scale. And here on the sidebar, we can see what happened when we apply the scale to our object. Then press Z to switch the shading mode and select the material preview. And like you see, the soda can only have the silver material, but in this video, we are going to fix that. So now I will show you how to set up the Blender label material. So select the soda can. Press 1 on your numpad to get to the front view. This is how you enable the numpad for laptops. Go to Edit, then click on Preferences. Go to Input and then check Emulate Numpad. Then press the Tab button to go to Edit mode. So this is the Tab button just right over the caps lock. Then select this vertex and then press Option or Alt to select the whole edge loop. Then press Control and then plus on the numpad to expand the selection. I have changed that shortcut to Option and then plus, just because I don't have any numpad on my laptop. And when you are down, the selection will look like this. And you can change that too by go to Preferences and then click on Key Map. Search for Select More and then change it to the shortcut you like. Okay, to be honest, I don't know exactly which one of this make the Select More in the viewport, so I change all of them. And then go to the material selection here to the right. And then click here on the plus button to add another material. And then click on the new button to create a new material.
And then rename it to Texture Transition.
And then click on Assign to apply the new material to our model. And then tab back to Object Mode. Open a new window. By holding your mouse over here until this symbol shows up, then drag the new window that way you will until the new window show up. Then click here and change the editor type to Shader Editor. And then press N to hide the sidebar. So first start with press Shift+A to add an image texture node, and then plug the color into the base color, and then open the Blender label texture we downloaded before. I will do the black version for this tutorial, but you can use the orange version or you can use your own label texture, and then go to the UV editing. So the goal of this is to wrap this correctly, and like you see, some vertices is missing here to the left, so to fix that press U to go to the UV mapping menu, and then click on the Unwrap. And I know it kind of looks weird right now, but to fix that, press U again and click on Cylinder Projection. So press A to select all, then press S to scale it down, and then press G to move it. And then press S+X to scale it up on the X-axis. And I'm going to speed up this process, but continue to repeat the shortcuts until the UV mapping looks like this. And then go back to the layout. And here you can see our soda can have the Blender label texture. So let's continue with the Blender label texture. Press 7 on your numpad to go to the top view, and then press R to rotate it. And the goal of this process is to have the label facing forward when we go to the front view, and then press Ctrl+A to apply the rotation. So I like to render my videos in cycles, but if you want, you can choose to render in EV. So go to the render settings and change the render engine to cycles. And if you have a GPU device, go and change to that for better rendering. Press Z to switch shading mode and select render mode. And change the noise threshold to 0.1 so you can render faster. Also change the max samples on the render to 300. Then unfold the color management and change the look to high contrast. Now let's set up the HDRI. So go to the world selection, click on this yellow dot and select the environment texture. And like you see, our viewport is purple pinkish color. But we don't want that, so to fix that, Click on Open and choose your HDRI image. In the description, I linked the HDRI I used, so download that. Yay, now it looks already better. But like you see, the material looks kind of boring. So let's continue with our Blender Label texture material.
So before we start, we need the Node Wrangler add-on.
So this is how enable the Node Wrangler. Go to Edit, then Preference. Click Add-on, then go to Search and type in Node Wrangler. Check the Node Wrangler, and here you go. And then change the metallic to 0.5. And then add another image texture node. And plug the color into the roughness. Then open the fingerprints image. You will find the link in the description, so download that. And the file's name will look like this. Then add a color ramp and place it after the image texture node. And then press Ctrl+T to enable the Node Wrangler. Then plug the object into the vector on the mapping node. And then press Shift+Ctrl+ color ramp. And when you see this weird black thing, you know, we did it the right way. And then change from flat to box and change the blend to 0.5. And last change the color space to non-color. And then on the mapping node, change the scale to 0.1. And on the color ramp node. So change the black value to 0.2 and then change the white value to 0.5. And then press Shift+Ctrl+ principled BSDF. And then add a mix color node and place it right after the color ramp. And then change the color into the B instead. And then change from mix to add on the mix color. And then add a RGB curve node. And plug the color into the A on the mix color. And then change the factor to 1. And then add a noise texture node. And last, plug the color into the color. And then press Shift+Ctrl+ the noise texture node. And when you see the gray and white thing, you know you did it the right way. And then change the scale to 7.72. And then change the detail all the way up to 15. And last, change the roughness to 0. And then press Shift+Ctrl+ the RGB curve node. And when you see this colors, you know you did it the right way. Then click here to make a point. And change the first numbers to 0.5454. And then change the second number to 0.1875. Then make another point. And change the first number to 0.7954. And then change the second number to 0.6187. And this is what our RGB curve will look like. Then press Shift+Ctrl+ the principled BSDF to see what we got. And then add a bump node. And plug the normal into the normal. And then change the strength to 0.043, and last change the distance to 0.1. And then add another noise texture node and plug the FAC into the height. And then press Shift+Ctrl+ the noise texture. And then change the scale to 700. And then change the detail all the up to 15. Then press Ctrl+T to enable the Node Wrangler. And then select the texture coordinate and press X to delete it because we don't need it. And then plug the object into the vector. Then press Shift+Ctrl+ the principled BSDF to see what we got. And then unfold the specular and add a invert color node. And then plug the color into the IOR level. And then add another image texture node. Then plug the color into the color. And now open the image I linked down below. The name of the image will look like this.
And select all these nodes and press Ctrl+J to join to a new frame. And here on the sidebar, we have the node selection.
And under the label, rename it to Blender Label. Yay! We have set up the Blender Label texture. Now it's time to set up the silver material for the texture effect.
So press Shift+A to add another principled BSDF node. Then press Shift+Ctrl+ the principled BSDF to see the silver material we are making instead of the Blender texture.
And then change the metallic to 1.
And then add an image texture node. And plug the color into the roughness.
Then open the fingerprint image we downloaded before, and the name of the file will look like this.
And press Ctrl+T to enable the Node Wrangler.
Then plug the object into the vector on the mapping node.
And then add a color ramp node, and place it after the image texture. And then press Shift+Ctrl+ the color ramp, and then change from flat to box. And then change the blend to 0.5. And then change the color space to non-color. And then change the scale on the mapping node to 0.1. And then change the black value to 0.2.
And then change the white value to 0.5.
And then press Shift+Ctrl+ the principled BSDF. And then add a bump node and plug the normal into the normal. Then change the strength to 0.063. and then add a noise texture node, and plug the FAC into the height on the bump node, and then press Shift plus Control plus the noise texture, then change the scale to 700, and then select the mapping and press Shift plus Control plus D to duplicate not just the node but also the settings the node has. Then plug the vector into the vector, and change the scale back to 1, and then press Shift plus Control plus the principled BSDF. And here we have a cool silver material with fingerprints on it. Then select all of these nodes, and press Ctrl plus J to join them into a new frame. Then rename it to silver material. And now let's set up the texture transition material nodes. But before that, I will say thank you all for supporting me, so add a mix shader node.
And then place it right after the principled BSDF for the silver material.
Then plug the second principled BSDF into the second shader.
And like you see, our two materials we created has blend together.
So to control the transition, we just need to add some few nodes.
So first start with adding a noise texture node.
And plug the color into the FAC on the mix shader.
And then add a color ramp node and place it right after the noise texture.
Then press Shift plus Control plus the color ramp, so we can see what we are making right now. Then select the noise texture and press Ctrl plus T to enable the node wrangler.
Then plug the object into the vector on the mapping node.
So change the black value to 0.473 and then the white value to 0.534. Then on the noise texture node, change from 3D to 4D, and then plug the vector into the W. And then add a mix color node.
And place it right after the noise texture node. And then plug the color into the B on the mix color, and then add a gradient texture node. So first plug the vector into the vector, and then plug the color into the A. And like you see, something cool is happening on our texture. Also change the scale on the noise texture to 2 and the detail to 6.
And the roughness to 0.7.
And then press Shift plus Control plus the Mix Shader node to see the result we have created. And like you see, the texture has our effect, but are on the wrong side of the soda can.
Then select all of these nodes, and press Ctrl plus J to join them into a new frame.
And then rename it to Texture Effect.
So let's set up the transition controller. So how do we control the effect?
You need to add some empty object. I will add the empty plane axis, but you can choose any object.
And then press F2 to rename it to transition controller. And for Mac users like me, press FN and then F2. Then go back to the materials. And on the texture coordinate, on the object selection, you will find an empty spot.
And then click and select the transition controller we just created.
And like you see, nothing has happened yet.
So to fix that, change the Y rotation on the mapping to 90. And now we have fixed the problem, yay!
And when we move the controller on the Z-axis, you can now see the effects is working like we want it to.
And now let's set up the camera. So press Shift plus A to add a camera, and then go to the camera settings, and then unfold the viewport display. And then press 0 on your numpad to get to the camera view. And then change the Y rotation to -17. And then change the Passepartout to 0.8 so it shows a little bit of the viewport. And then unfold the composition guide. And then check the thirds and center for some guidelines.
So now let's set up the camera focus.
Then press Shift plus A to add an empty plane axis. Press 3 on your numpad to get to the side view. Then press G plus Y to move it on the Y-axis. And then go to the constraint selection. And then add a copy location and change target to the soda can. And then add a shrink wrap and change the target to soda can as well. And click on Y, so the camera focus not affect on the Y-axis.
And then rename it to camera focus. And then go back to the camera settings. And then check the depth of field and change the focus object to the camera focus.
And then change the f-stop to 0.5. Okay, so I like to control my camera with some empty object. So add a plane axis. Select the camera and then press Shift plus the empty object. Then press Ctrl plus P to parent to and click on Object. And then rename it to Camera Controller. And now let's do the fun stuff and animate the soda can. So first start with
change the end frame to 100.
And then go to frame 15. Then right-click over the Z location and click on Single Keyframe to make a keyframe. And this little orange thing is a keyframe. Then go to frame 35 and change the Z location to 1.4, and then right-click to make a single keyframe. And then press I over the rotation here on the sidebar. And now go to the frame 100, and then change the X rotation to minus 11.6, and then change the Y rotation to minus 0.07, and last, change the Z rotation to 25.1. And then here, on the sidebar, press I over the rotation to make a keyframe. Let's play the animation by hitting the spacebar, and this is what we have now. I think this looks good. Now let's animate the texture controller. So first start with go to frame 1, and then change the Z location to 3.5, and then right-click to make a single keyframe. And then go to frame 20, and then right-click to make a single keyframe. And then go to frame 30, and change the Z location to 2. And then right-click to make a single keyframe. And then go to frame 75 and change the Z location to 1.2. And then right-click to make a single keyframe. And then last go to frame 85 and change the Z location to -2. And then right-click to make a single keyframe. So let's play the animation again by hitting the spacebar. And this is what we have now. I think this looks very good. So let's animate the camera controller. So first start with go to frame 1. And then right-click to make a single keyframe, and then go to frame 15, and then right-click again to make another single keyframe, and then go to frame 40, and change the Z location to 1.45, and then right-click again to make another single keyframe, and then press 0 on your numpad to get to the camera view. So let's play the animation again by hitting the spacebar, and this is what we have now. I think this looks very good. So let's set up a backdrop. So start with adding a plane, and then press R plus X plus 90 to rotate it 90 degrees on the X-axis. And then change the Y location to 7, then press S plus 5 to scale it by 5, and press G plus Z to move it up on the Z-axis. And then press S plus 2 to make the plane double so big. Then rename it to BG, which is a shortening for background. Then press Shift plus A to add a plane. And then change the scale X to 5, and then the Y to 8, and last the Z to 5. As well. And then change the Z location to -3.1, and then go to frame 1. And then tab into edit mode and press S plus X to scale it up on the X-axis. And then tab back to object mode. And then select the camera controller and change the X rotation to 6. And now, let's set up the waterground material. So before I start, go to the render selection, and then unfold the film and check the transparent, so we can see the material we create a little bit better. And change the editor type to Shader Editor. And then click on the New button to create a new material. And then rename it to Waterground. And then change the color to full white. And then change the roughness to 0.036. And then change the IOR to 1.33. And last, change the transmission to 1. And then press Shift plus A to add a bump node. And then plug the normal into the normal. And then press Shift plus A to add a noise texture node. And then plug the FAC into the height on the bump node. And then press Shift plus Control plus the noise texture to see what we're doing. And then press Control plus T to enable the node wrangler. Then plug the object into the vector on the mapping node. So first change the scale to 1, and then the detail to 3, and last the roughness to 0.6. And then on the mapping node, change the Y scale to 3.5. And then press Shift plus Control plus Principled BSDF to see the material we just created, and then rename it to Ground. So let's set up a platform for the soda can. So first start with press Shift plus A to add a cylinder. Go to Edit mode by hitting the Tab button, and then press G plus Z plus -1 to move it down on the Z-axis, and then tab back to Object mode. So press S plus Z plus 0.2 to scale it down on the Z-axis. Then press S plus 1.5 to scale it up, and then go to the Modifiers selection, and then add a bevel modifier, and then change the amount to 0.05, and then change the segments to 6, and then add a subdivision surface modifier, and then change the viewport to 2. Then press Ctrl plus A to apply the scale, and then change the amount to 0.04, and then right-click and click on Shade Smooth, and then press G plus Z plus Control to lock it down to the Z-axis. And then select the ground and press G plus Z plus Control to lock it on the Z-axis. And then press 0 on your numpad to get to the camera view. Go to Edit mode by hitting the Tab button, then press G plus Y to move it on the Y-axis. And then tab back to Object mode. Then press Z to switch between the different shading modes, and then select Render mode. And then press Ctrl plus B to box select and drag over the camera view. so we only render that area we selected. So select the cylinder and then rename it to platform. And don't forget to save the blend file. And now it's time for our last render settings. So first go to the output selection. So I like to render my videos in 4K, so the number for that is 3840 and then 2160, and change the frame rate to 30. So to make a video of this, we need to change the file format to FFmpeg video and then unfold the encoding, and change the container to MPEG-4, and change the output quality to high quality. Then go to compositing, and then check the use nodes, and then go to the view layer selection, and then check the denoising data. Press Shift+A to add a denoise, then plug noisy image to image, plug denoising normal to normal, and last plug denoising albedo to albedo. And here is my results. Thank you for watching, and I hope you like my tutorial. And if you do a video of this animation, go and publish that on Instagram and tag me, malin.mpeg4. Comment down below what I can make in the next video and with the editing and all that thing, and feel free to subscribe for more tutorials and videos.